death is a hard thing to comprehend. It's the one that causes the most pain, and it makes us question everything. Obviously, the concept of what happens after death, but why some people go earlier, why is something so tragic? And yeah, it makes people question things, but most people just don't have the answers. I have my own thoughts on certain things, but even there's certain moments that happen that are truly tragic, and you just can't wrap your head around it. You think this makes no sense at all. But why them? I always say that we're all born with a certain length of string. No one knows how long that string is. No one knows how fast the string's going to burn. So for the majority of people, there's like a predefined timeline. Now we have free will; it can deviate. We can take forks in the road. You can take different turns. But for the majority of people, you're still going to ultimately end up where you're supposed to. And of course, we have free will. So free will, we are still accountable for our actions. So you can't like live life thinking you're invincible, and then you'll realize you weren't invincible. Maybe didn't value your life. But when it's good people that go, and it tends to be in the public eye, it tends to be those who, they were kind. That's the way it just doesn't make sense. Like, why them? But the thing about that is, when you think about it deep enough, what does it do to communities? It brings people together, and it makes people reflect upon life to understand, don't waste time. You can't guarantee time at all. You can't guarantee anything. So make the most of the life you have and appreciate those in your life. And sadly, sometimes it takes losing people for people to notice that. And when it's someone in the public eye, it's not necessarily about them, but like a bigger cause. And it's going to take big moments to really affect the masses. And the world at the moment is chaotic. It's all around the world. Politics is having a huge bearing on the world, and it's not much to be too happy about. And like I say, I think losses shake up our reality. So, recently, people in sports, like I'm a Liverpool fan. I'm not going to go too deep into it because there's so many people that think if you're not from an area, how can you be a fan? Well, just briefly, I don't know why I chose Liverpool. I like the way they played. They were on the TV. My local team, Southend United, were not on TV. I was too young. I didn't go to games. My family didn't go to local football matches. Majority of my family were actually Manchester United fans, so I wasn't doing it to be popular in any way. So when people say all the time that you support your local team, why would you support a local team you don't see? It doesn't make sense. You're not that aware as a child, and there's always this thing. But again, if you live in a place where your team is huge, then I can understand you picking a team that's huge out of the two teams. Other people have to make decisions. And anyway, I don't want to go on a huge tangent there because some people get really weird about it. It's like, it's not that deep. So unfortunately, Liverpool have just lost, or the world has just lost. Someone quite remarkable, to be totally honest, in a football player, Diogo Jota. I don't do things for clickbait or any of that shit. You won't see that written. You won't see his name titled in the video because I'm not doing this video to jump on a bandwagon and gain at someone's expense. It's just weighed on me for a couple of days. Like I was absolutely in shock when I first heard the news. I was like, no, that's one of those fake social media things. Then I realized it had a blue tick next to it. And I thought that's a verified account. And then slowly but surely, the other news outlets were reporting in the news, and it was like, what the hell, man? Like I said, it's always the ones that are the kindest, the nicest. I've seen so much footage of Diogo over the past year or so, especially through social media, like Liverpool's own YouTube channel. They had a bit where he was showing, I think it was when you get the ultimate team in like FIFA, UFC 25 and 24, 25. where the players get their ratings and things, and he's showing things like that, and you get to see him with his teammates. It always presented incredibly beautifully. Like his personality was one of someone like loving and caring, always having a laugh, smiling, happy. Like you can tell with people, you know. And I think that's what hurt the most. Like when you notice it, you know, out of nowhere, the world has just lost this person. Now, so many people they get caught up in sports. Of course, it gives us an awareness of that person, and you get more of an idea of who they are. But I see a lot of content creators. They're going, "Well, I'm this fan, and but you know, I can appreciate him." It's like no one gives a shit what fan you are. That's irrelevant. Football is irrelevant at this point. I know that's what he's known for, but too many people they sort of. I don't want to go on a huge tangent with this either, but too many people they just lose sight of reality. It's like sports becomes their religion. Sports is entertainment. It can go further than that, and I get it, but don't lose sight of reality here. It's not about rivalries and it's not about teams. You don't have to segregate this. It's a bit like, again, I don't want to go on huge tangents one way or the other, but you see this awful lot. I'm just someone who likes to observe. I like to watch. I like to enjoy it. So like if I see Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, you know, you can appreciate just greatness. But some people go on, some people pick a side and it's like that's their religion. It's like you're just sad and pathetic. You know, that's ridiculous. That's not. They have a rivalry, but I don't think their rivalry extends to the level that some weird fans are. You know, that's just crazy. You don't have to pick a player, you know, religiously. It's crazy. And the way they are with their sports teams, I think, is absolutely mental too. And it's like, again, it's like you got caught up too deep into something. It's like you got to look at your life, reassess it, and think like what actually gives you meaning and purpose to every day and fulfillment. And it shouldn't be attachment to a sports team or things like that, because that's just delusional. That really is. Like, you know, you can have a team you support, you can be a fan of, you can enjoy the journey, your heart can race when certain things happen, but don't let it consume your life and detach you from the other side of realities, you know, because what that means is you've wasted your life thinking something is part of your family, part of your, like, it has more meaning than it should. You've literally got caught up in something and it's taken over your life. So anyway, I see respectful comments about Diogo Jota, but it's just when I always see that, I just think you don't need to. I mean, if you want to wear your sports team top, I think everybody knows that's who you're supporting, so don't twist it. Just if you're going to leave like a condolence, it's like make it a pure condolence. Don't segregate it with freaking sports teams. That just ruins the message. Anyway. And what I see there as well, like if you look at things in general, like so like I say, you know, when you lose people, it does bring people together, and it makes you realize how short life is. Make the most of it, like truly appreciate it. But like I said there, like it brings people together as well. You know, you see like where there's potential rivalries, people are putting that aside, which, you know, the rivalries are stupid in the first place, and then, you know, it does harmonize people. I think it humbles people. And it takes for me personally, I think it takes these resets for the world to finally readjust. But like I said at the very beginning there, sometimes it can just be a tragic accident. You know, literally some things are accidents, because like we are accountable for our lives. I've said so many times to people, like family members and things, when it comes to cars, like vehicles, tires are the most vulnerable, because I have family members that want to drive ridiculously fast, you know, pushing the boundaries and things, and they think it's joyous, like they think it's fun. It's like you're taking your life, you know, you're messing with your life, because yeah, your car, the engine, every other part of your car can push to ridiculous speeds. But most tires, if you actually look at tires, depending on the brand you get, of course, and how much you're paying for them, but for the most of them, they have like a little number on them. Like it might say 95, it might say 96. That's the top speed of that tire. Anything over that could violate the integrity of that tire. And what happens if something happens to it? And I've always said that don't push the tires beyond their limits, because that's the thing that's going to go. And whether your car is as fast as you want, you're going to lose control of it. And most people, you see them on the motorways, they just go mental over 100 mile an hour, and it's like no way your tires can handle that speed. You're just lucky you've made it that far. So I've seen other people mention it as well. And I've seen other people say, you know, that's just, you know, they don't care. And it's like, but because they don't believe it. They think the tires can do anything. It's like, you're playing with fire with that one. So apparently the cause was the fact that they overtook a car in a Lamborghini and the tire exploded. And it's like, that makes sense. You know, as expensive as that car is and as powerful as it is, the tires can only perform so much. And it's, um, like I say, it was just for me. It was like hearing the news. It was like, wow. Like, first of all, you don't want to believe it. I lost one of my best friends from high school when I come out. We went to college for a year together, and it was a hard moment for me. I lost. It was night time. I found out in the morning. Like, they died in a car crash. They were driving. I think at the time they were using their cell phone, their mobile phone, but back then you weren't told not to. And they had their brother in the car as well, and another friend from school, and they all died. And that was a hard loss to handle, like a truly hard loss to handle. I had to go on holiday, a family holiday to Florida, first time in America. My head just weren't right, and no one really knew of what I was suffering with. I'm not someone that was explained, talked about it much. I was just, it was internal. And it was a weird feeling having to sort of integrate into society and just be normal when you're mourning the loss of people you genuinely like enjoyed their time. Even like, for instance, like it's a bit like Diogo Jota. I mean, his brother, you know, it's like Diogo Jota is the one everyone's thinking. Like, most people are like predominantly thinking about. But like when my friend went, his brother went with him, you know, and I was immediately thinking of both of them, like, because I've hung out with his brother, and and immediately my mind's just rushed to the family. You know, how the hell did they survive this? And I don't know if they have. You know, that'll tear people apart. It either brings people together or tears them apart. I think majority it will tear them apart because one won't be able to handle it more than others, and it's just really hard to wrap your head around loss. And even that, it fries your mind, you know, because you're just trying to understand, like, why did they have to be taken so young? Like, that's before, you know what I mean, before they've even had a chance to have relationships, before they've had life experience. All they've known was really sports, because that's what they're into. Didn't even get to live very long. But sometimes, like, I'm spiritual, and I don't see many religious leaders talking at the moment. Now, maybe they haven't, I've just not seen it. And like, it's one of those things where you try to understand life and our existence, and then potentially death. I believe we all come here for a purpose, and I don't think our purpose is always as long or as pronounced as others, you know. So we all have got different life paths. Our souls are at various stages. So there can be very multitude of reasons why people go, and it's not always for us to understand because it's their life journey, not ours. Although, of course, it has a bearing. So it may very well be, in let's say Diogo Jota's case, it may be that his destiny was to touch the lives of the masses, like millions, literally millions of people, and live long in their memory. And one way to do that was to go early. Like, maybe he was going to be a source of beacon of hope for people. You know, that's literally what he come here to do. And to do that, he was to be famous and be great, incredible at sports. And that was going to tie him to other people's names too, like predominant people. And then he will have a lasting legacy that way. Now, I'm not saying that's definitely what is the case. But you've got to think about sometimes like that. Like, how are you going to have the biggest impact on the world? Like, if you was in source, like spirit, deciding and determining your life path in this life, your memory will be wiped when you were born. But before you come here, for some, it's a beautiful way to go, in the sense that you go at your height of your popularity, you know. Not in the way it goes, but again, you know, I've heard afterlife accounts where people decide their fate sometimes as well, where they want to go. Because let's say, for instance, in previous lives, I'm not trying to glamorize anything, but let's say in previous lives you just died in your sleep. It might be that that's considered as slightly boring. So maybe you want to do something a bit more dramatic, a bit like a movie. Now, again, this could very well just be an accident, and it's literally just it went before his time. Because I think that can happen too. But personally, I think the way it's affecting people, It's touching people's hearts, you know. And you look at that and you think that that is where, I don't want to say blessing or anything, but I think that's where the impact's being felt. People teaching people compassion, humility, making the most of life. Again, we got people with rivals. Put away those rivalries, and come together. Effectively, it becomes about community. And it's sad that it takes loss to do those things. But when you think about most fundamental changes, like huge impacts on society and the world, it usually does take sacrifice. It usually takes something quite huge to instigate that change. I said that in one of my books. I think it's Heal Your Mind to Free Your Soul. It might have even been Losing Mind to Find Your Soul, actually. I said something about that. I'm not sure if I ultimately removed it because I don't want to offend the people. I often say that tragedy is one of the biggest ways to instigate change on the world. And a small tragedy in our lives will make us self-reflect and heal, transform, and maybe change a different path and things like that. Now, what if you wanted to reach like the masses, like millions of people? It would take an immense tragedy to affect that amount of people and instigate rapid growth and change. And that is what I'm seeing now, like, you know. So when people say, for instance, I can't understand, there must be a plan, but I don't understand the reason. When you're in the middle or the very early stages of grief, it's hard to see clarity of anything, you know. It's like, this is just outrageous. Like, why them? Like, literally. But like I said, you know, it's not always going to be about what we consider normal, what we consider fair. Their impact on the world is not really for us to deeply understand. But I think they'll have a bigger impact than maybe the majority of people realize. But it's a strange one, isn't it? It doesn't make too much sense, really, because on the other hand of that, you think he was a nice person and I'm sure he would have done good things long after into retirement and things. But maybe it's about value in life too. I mean, there's always maybes. There's all these things that it could be, of course. But life is life and death are the two things that really, I think, cause so much misunderstanding, really. And people just, I think, get caught up. I think sometimes you get caught up in loss so much in the end that you don't live. Because some people do that. They got this real deep attachment to worrying about everything all the time. And it's like, when we're born, the one guarantee we have when we're born is that we will die. Like I said at the beginning, you don't know when, you don't know how, you don't know the time, you don't know the place. But it's guaranteed for all of us. So it's one thing, there's no point fearing because you just waste your life in fear. So I think what we're seeing with the Diogo Jota situation as well is that literally anytime, any place, you literally don't know. It could be something where you just think, you know, this is just getting me from A to B. It's a destination. It's something you've done a million times over. And it might be that you've done that thing a million times over because that's literally going to be where it happens. You know, there's no way of knowing. And I don't think it's any point obsessing. Ultimately, like I know some moments are more tragic than others. And it's like our mind can't comprehend it. You know, you're just thinking the suffering. But ultimately, like however we go, whether it's, you know, whatever way we get perish, it's like we perish. But it doesn't make it any easier, of course. And I think when it's raw, but I see a lot of people, I get sick of it. You know, when someone goes, there's people that will make content and they'll tag the shit out of it and they'll try to gain money from it. I say I'm not putting anyone's name in the title or description of this video. I'm not doing it for that. It was just me processing what was happening. Because I'm seeing so much content where I'm seeing like so in Portugal apparently they have the wake very soon, like within a day or two, and then the funeral's the day after. They don't mess about. And I've said that myself, like that. Well, I've never known that was their culture, but I've always said that the way. I don't agree with funerals for the best part because I understand our soul's journey. Once your soul has left your body, the body, it's now just a vessel. It's just an empty shell. It's a vessel. Like, I'm not trying to be morbid there, but like, the soul is the thing keeping it going. It's what gives it personality and life. So when your soul goes back to the heavens, it goes back to source spirit. It's now onto a new part of its journey. Diogo Jota has only left us in earthbound life and conception. He's now returned back to his, his purest form, and he'll have a life review, end of life review. See all the impact he's had, the beautiful things he's done, anything that maybe you haven't done great that you'll learn from, and then his soul will go on the next stage of its evolution. Meanwhile, those on Earth continue to mourn and they feel suffering. He will get to see, people's reactions. This isn't me just saying it. I mean, I've had experiences through my tarot cards. I've had other people explain, say it, the same thing over and over again. I've heard end of life experiences, afterlife experiences. I've heard it's all repeated. It's all the same thing. So I don't doubt these things. Now, people can say, "Oh, you're just glamorizing something, or you're just hoping it's." That's up to them. However, it's not up to me to convince someone of how they perceive life and how they perceive death. That's up to them. I'm not trying to convince myself of anything. It's what I know within my heart. I know this is what's coming. So I don't fear it. Now, other people are terrified because they don't want to believe anything. And it's up to them. Whatever brings you, I'd say whatever brings you peace, but clearly it doesn't. But to each their own. Some people, they think they're so intelligent that they dismiss everything. So is that intelligent to not be open-minded and not to comprehend different things? But anyway, I'm not going to sort of go down deep into that path. So I've always felt the point of a funeral, for instance, is wasted. If you're just going to have a funeral and then it's like 2 weeks later or however long it takes, it's like that. Their soul's already on its journey to evolve and process the life it's had. So I don't personally agree with funerals in that regard. Now, I've had deep sessions with mediums, psychics, channeling through to the angelic realm. I've had all sorts of experiences, believe me. And it was confirmed to me that whilst it's okay to do whatever you choose, if you don't want to attend, they don't mind when they pass over, but they do actually watch and they do like to see the celebration of their life. And that's something I wasn't aware of because I felt it took too long. But they know when that's happening, when there's a ceremony, and they will watch. I'm getting goosebumps now. But because the way the Portuguese do it so quickly, I can relate to that. I could understand that. I don't understand why a lot of countries take so long. But anyway, at least that might bring some people peace. The fact that, if those on the other side get to witness, then that means Diogo Jota would get to witness all those people that loved him, remember him. But it is still raw and it is still new, and it's strange. Straight away, I always think things way ahead, Straight away, I was just thinking about teammates when they go back. It's like, it's strange, isn't it? How do you all meet each other knowing that there's something profoundly missing? And it's not that they traded to another team. It's like something genuinely tragic happened. And you're not going to see them around here anymore. It's a strange, eerie situation. But then it just becomes the way to cope with loss is to celebrate life. It's not to mourn death, it's to celebrate life. So you celebrate the life they have, one they had, and rejoice in their accomplishments and who they are, how they carried themselves when they had this situation in their life, when they had that situation. Like, how did they handle that? If they had compassion, and like I said, it's always the nice ones that go. And you got to look at that. If you process that, it makes sense, really, doesn't it? Because if it was someone you felt didn't deserve to be here because they're just wasting life or they're destroying others, you would think, well, thank heavens for that. Justice is prevailed. When it seems like an injustice, it's more heart-wrenching. It makes you go more internal. It makes you process life. It makes you process your life. It makes you process how you treat other people, the fabric of life. It just makes you question so much. And then it has a change on society, our values. Even the way people report things, it's like that it causes change. Because, like, for instance, I'm seeing social media footage and I've got, like, famous faces, like, it's the world of football, soccer, attending the wake for Diogo Jota. And whilst it's interesting to see who's there, it's like, at the same time, it's an awareness that, did you really need to record that? It's a personal, intimate moment. And I think people are going to start noticing this more too. That there's a time to be private. There's a time to let people mourn. That it's not a broadcast. Just because you know these people, they're famous for whatever reason, they're still people. And they don't deserve to have a camera thrust in their face while they're at their lowest. It's not entertainment. Now, you could argue it's newsworthy. I'm not sure you needed it, you know. And again, I think that's what that when if you don't have those moments, how do you gain awareness in society? I'm not saying it's fair. I think sometimes you just got to look at the bigger picture though, and think, well, at the end of the day, all of us, no matter how important we might think we are, we're all a mechanism for the universe. The universe will place us where it needs to place us and will do with us what it needs to do with us at a given moment to achieve the ultimate goal, which is really to find peace on earth. The world, it go beyond famous faces, go beyond a single loss. If you go through history, the world has been corrupt, it's been suppressed, it's not really been a safe, viable place. Earth is not that hospitable, although, of course, we all like to create our little bit of sanctuary on Earth. The world should be far more that is community. It should be galvanized. It should be diverse. It should be blended. It should be everybody should just be at peace with each other, you know. So when we lose little pieces of miracles, it really forces people to look within and then look to community. And I think personally, it brings people together. And I think that's the legacy that gets left behind. It brings people back to reality, you know. And like I said, we're all just a little cog in a mechanism of change. And I have trouble in life, to be totally honest. Not necessarily in death. I have trouble more in life because I say it's hard to build a good life for yourself when the world is built, and so it's just so controlled and so toxic and corrupt. It's hard to build a little bit of paradise amongst that because everything is like there's rules and bound to this and bound to that. And again, it takes something big to instigate the changes, you know. I'm not trying to validate someone's life and their loss. You know, it's just an awareness inside of me. I sort of understand the deeper reasons why things happen, like instinctively. But again, you could say why them, but then the other side of that is why someone else, though. So it's just a case of that. If that was there, it's not always for us to understand totally someone's life path. Their human vessel may not understand, but their soul would have decided certain things before they come here. And that's why it's weird when people get jealous of other people. It's like you must have decided your path before you come here. It's just some people get lost on Earth because it's so dense and so toxic. So they get caught up in temptations and materialism and things that are so meaningless. And maybe they go through awakening at some point and they get back to reality and they focus more on, you know, growth, personal growth, soul development, the impact on other people. So the next generation don't suffer like we suffer, you know? Because some people like to break the chains, they like break cycles. Some people don't break cycles, so they repeat it, and it's like it's more of a, some of us have to work even harder to try to eradicate the chaos that is there. You know, like I say, none of us know what time we go and how we go. But I don't think there's any point just sort of like worrying about it. You know, you're worrying about an inevitability where that string continues to burn. Like we may be very close to the end of that string, or we may have more string to go. But I think if you sit there worrying so much, you just don't live. And I would say, at least in this instance, Diogo Jota, he definitely lived. And he's had such an impact on people, you know, that they're mourning a loss. And I think that says a lot. I don't know many sports stars that went young. I mean, I know, of course, there are, but I don't know, like, offhand. The only other one that comes to mind is, I think, Kobe Bryant when he went in the helicopter. But I think he was retired at that point. I might be wrong. I'm not a basketball like fan. I don't know the depths of basketball. That was a huge impact when that came out. And again, it was like, why him? Because I'm pretty sure he used to do charitable things. He was a good person. Like, all the stories that come out about him was he was kind. and it just didn't make sense, you know? Like, why? Why are the kind people? Because it does leave a double message. If you're being that transparent, is if being kind is going to make you you go early, that doesn't make much sense to be kind if you're going to look at it that way. But yeah, I think it makes people look at life though. I think reflect on what matters the most and maybe focuses on purpose. But again, I mean, all that could just be rationalizing a loss. But I do watch people in general, and I do see the way societies and people like in general react to situations. And although there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of suffering, where you see the compassion people have for one another, it just is actually quite beautiful to witness because most people are at odds regularly. There's no love, there's no respect. It's always like you see with sports, it's all rivalries. People can't look beyond people. They see they just see labels and things, you know. So I find that as well, that crazy, that football hooliganism. It's just stupid as shit. You know, you can't even go to a sports match without it ascending into chaos and anarchy. And it's like I don't, you know, I think more people would attend sports things if they knew it was just going to be I get to watch that in the same way I go to a concert. But people just get so caught up they turn it into madness, and it's just stupid as shit to me. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. Anyway, they treat it like they're an army. It's like no one gives a shit about any of that. Like literally, most people just want to watch the sport. You know, you turn it into something it's not. It's just you're just not a very good people. You know, you just choosing violence when like sport should bring people together. Sport should be beautiful. These rivalries are just dense. They really are stupid as shit. I mean, I don't want to deviate too far, but I think this is this is what I'm saying though. I think things happen to give people a moment to reflect. I see a lot of it even in Formula One. People pick teams and shit. Like I like specific drivers and I like specific teams, but I'm not to the point where I'm like, oh, if they don't win or they're losing, I turn it off. It's like that's just stupid. Like, what are you doing? I like the sport more than my favourites, and I think that's the thing. You should enjoy the sport. You can have your favourites, but just enjoy the game, enjoy the competitiveness, enjoy the entertainment. It's not your life, then I don't misconstrue a source of entertainment as your life because what you're doing is putting your life on hold because you've allowed the entertainment to consume you. And I think that's what again, if you look at these tragedies, a lot of them are sports people, sports personalities, and it's probably showing that you need to really start focusing on your own life. Um, And if someone's had prominence in their life and they've done good things, I think it's use them as a role model, you know? It's like when they got to the top, they didn't let it get to them. And I think that says an awful lot about someone's personality because most people, fame or attention, wealth, it can get to people's heads. It can make them lose who they are, you know? Like I said, in Diogo Jota's case, he was just come across incredibly kind. Yeah, so I'm not saying life's fair at all. In fact, life is incredibly unfair, but then so is the world. So all we get is a fraction of time to have an impact on the world, and you've got to decide for yourselves whether you want to have a positive or negative impact on the world, because you don't know how long you've got. You might think, you know what, I'm going to change my ways. You might only have tomorrow to change it. So don't waste time.